Question number 6 is trying to point out one great thing that just happens to come from synthetic division, and that is verifying upper and lower bounds. Okay, so it's not hard to do, but then we need to kind of put into words why it works that way. So if I synthetically divide this by 3, so I've got 2x to the third, so negative 4x squared, a negative 3, and a negative 2. Be careful. Remember, if there's not any x's, I would have to put a 0 here. Synthetic division doesn't work if you don't put the placeholders in. So I do synthetic division, and I add down, multiply these and put it here. Add down, multiply 6, add down, multiply, add down. Okay, so 99% of the time what we're really hoping for is we're hoping for a remainder of 0, because a remainder of 0 would mean that this is a 0 and that it goes into it perfectly, because that's much more useful. But there's also something else. It's very subtle, but once you practice this a little bit, you get used to seeing it too. This is positive, this is positive, this is positive, and this is positive. Okay, so we can say something like, because the answer row in synthetic division is all positive, then 3 is an upper bound. Okay, so that's all we need to explain why or how we know that 3 is an upper bound. I guess probably more importantly though, what it means to be upper bound is that if 3 is an upper bound, that means there is no zeros bigger than 3. So again, if I'm doing a lot of work with this function and I'm really struggling finding the zeros, obviously I'd love to actually have a 0, but this is still helpful because it's an upper bound. I would know that there's no chance that 4 or 5 or 10 or 100, none of those are going to be zeros. So I could eliminate them all from my process. Okay, so similar idea for testing for lower bound. We can go ahead and do the synthetic division. So add down, multiply, add down, multiply, add down, multiply, add down. Okay, so if they were all positive, that would be upper bound. And if they alternate between positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, then that's how we're going to know that it's a lower bound. So complete sentence could just be because the answer row in synthetic division alternates between positive and negative. That's how I know -1 is a lower bound. Okay, so something else that often comes up in these questions that didn't come up in these specific examples is if you have a 0 in your answer row, 0 can count as positive or negative. So for example, if this was 0, it would still be a lower bound because we could do positive, negative, 0 can count as either, and then negative. So that's all I really need to say as far as explaining how I know it's a lower bound. And again, what it really means is that because this is a lower bound, there is going to be no zeros to the left of that. So again, if I have no idea anything about this function and I need to know lots about it, I'm not allowed to use a calculator, etc. It's nice to know that nothing could possibly be less than -1. So if I combine these two, I don't know what this function looks like, But if there's no zeros past negative or positive 3 to the right of positive 3, and there's no zeros to the left of negative 1, then the only places it possibly hits the x-axis is between negative 1 and 3, not including those. So I still don't know exactly where it's hitting the x-axis. I don't know the exact zero, but I've narrowed it down pretty quickly from having no idea to knowing it's between those four integers.